We shall not cease from exploration. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Through the unknown remembered gate, when the last of earth left to discover is that which was the beginning.
Stoker, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
So I thought it was really cool how we met. My girlfriend works at a place that you perform at pretty regularly, and I know you'll be moving out of town here soon, so that won't be in place anymore. But she was kind of telling me about this guy who played like a lot of John Mayer covers, and that was the artist she used just because we're big on John Mayer. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like I don't see many people doing that kind of guitar playing and singing around Johnstown. And then we got to meet, and I asked you if you wanted to come on the podcast, and you were nice enough to want to actually do that. So I kind of just want to pick your brain today about different things that you've done, stuff with music and all that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Yeah, John Mayer was kind of the initial inspiration for whenever it came to music, especially whenever it came to guitar. I was always good with singing, but I think the inspiration for bringing the guitar into my sets did come from John Mayer as well as a few other guitarists, but mostly him.
Okay. Yeah, I love Mayer, and I mean, I wish that I know it's all practice, but I always kind of wish that I was a little bit better to be able to play the kind of the stuff that he does, which is why I thought it was really cool what you're doing. But so you said that you kind of started off singing and then guitar got introduced later. Has singing always been a passion of yours, and then guitar was just something that you picked up eventually?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I'm trying to figure out how I should put this just so it makes the most sense when heard from a third person point of view. Um, you know, I always been musically inclined ever since I was young. My members of my family have said that sometimes if they'd see me near a guitar, whether it be my parents or cousins, etc., that are much older than me, they would always say that whenever I'd pick up a guitar, I'd start, putting my hand, obviously not play it like how a normal person would play it because I think I was about to, that's what my mom said. And I would just start playing like songs that they would know. And so I was like, wait, I don't even remember that. So, hey, I'll take it. But hey, yeah, full disclosure, I don't remember that. But yeah, it was, I guess, kind of that had to have been a sign, if something. But then, of course, whenever it came to singing, in the beginning, I was, of course, painfully shy about it. But then, the more you do it, the more it becomes like, okay, no one's gonna. It's not the end of the world if people hear you. It's easier said than done, and I don't really know how to exactly convey it to anybody who is perhaps listening to this, but just, once you start, that's the hardest part, I guess, if I want to start spitting bars right now. Goodness. But yeah. And yeah, I was definitely more of a singer before. I think I picked up guitar when I was like 15. I was working, I think I was just starting to get into jobs. Like I had been working at this nearby amusement park that I was able to scrape together enough money to get a guitar, as well as I got, I think, one as a gift from my mom. I think it was for Christmas or it was my birthday. I can't remember exactly, but there is a picture of me somewhere with that guitar, and I can even give it to you after this. But that's when that all started. So goodness, that was 9 years ago. So I've been playing the guitar for 9 years. It's funny because the most progress that I've had, and excuse me if I'm rambling so much, but I guess that's okay in this setting, right?
Yeah, this is
But
this is the setting to do it.
yeah. Um, let's see. I was um let's see. Where was I even going? That's the thing you'll get to know about me. The more you get to know about me, you'll see that I forget stuff so easily. My short-term memory is absolutely horrendous.
I'm the exact same way. It's terrible. You were talking about your mom giving you the guitar and you getting your own guitar.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, I think ultimately, the most progress you'll make with a guitar, at least that what I found it to be, is like within the first year, and then after that, the progress heavily slows down.
Hmm.
Like, obviously your style will change, as the years go on, and the longer you know how to play guitar, the more you'll notice how that style changes. But and you figure out what you're good at versus what other people are good at, and just how you move across the neck and stuff. I always found it interesting because whenever it came to the guitar, and I'm getting all into the nitty gritty crafty stuff that I'm sure probably turns a lot of people off. But I don't know. I guess it depends on who's listening. But I guess I would see it in like forms of shapes. So like whenever you go up the neck of a guitar, it's almost like kind of like shapes that you see, whether it's boxes, triangles, trapezoids, rhombus, shapes like that are very stretched out.
Hmm.
And I take it it's like easier for some people to press one of their fingers down and then strum the exact string with the other hand. I guess for some people that's just a lot harder. So fortunately for me, that was not that hard at all. So I was very grateful for that. And I'm kind of, knowing what I know now about, putting myself out there to do music is number one. I should just never have been afraid in the first place. But how on earth do you even tell that to somebody who, has that fear? And it's like, well, they have a point too why they would be, a bit anxious to, get up in front of people. But yeah, the place that I am playing for now, and I'm actually doing my final gig at, speaking of places and actually getting up in front of people, my last gig is actually this coming Saturday. And let's see, how many days is that from now? What day is today? Goodness,
Thursday.
it's Thursday. So Friday, Saturday. So on the November 15th of 2025 from 6 to 8 p.m. will be my last gig before I move on to what I'm doing next. So, but I've been there. I've been doing that since October 1st of 2024. So it's been over a year.
Okay.
It's kind of like a side hustle because I've work in news and I've been trying to focus also on that as a more stable source of income.
Hmm.
But obviously, this is great whenever you can use your um, talents as whether it's a side hustle or something that maybe you could branch into something bigger. But yeah. Um, anyway, I'm gonna let you talk for a little bit. Whoops.
Yeah, no, I mean, actually, back to that one point that you had made about playing guitar and kind of seeing the fretboard in terms of shapes is really interesting to me because I've always heard guitarists in particular use that as like the way when people ask like how do you play, how do you solo, how do you think of improvising and just playing in general, and they always say like most of them will say
Yeah.
I see in shapes, and I never got that with guitar specifically, which is really interesting because
Yeah.
I play bass more as my main instrument, and
Hmm.
when I play bass, it actually like I do see that like it very much is like shapes and patterns and all this stuff, and I think it's just because the bass is something that I don't know my brain in some way has been able to mold more around than with guitar. With guitar, there was something about the initial like that initial year that you were talking about where it was like I never got comfortable enough with it that I could actually like feel comfortable to continue getting better. And it was like just a roadblock that I kind of set myself. But then with bass,
Uh-huh.
I've kind of gotten to that spot and I find that really interesting. So, but yeah, that's just something that I always find cool whenever people talk about. But, with you talking about the news side of your life, that was something that I found really interesting about you because I originally only knew you as like as the musician who was playing around town, and when I found out that you are also a news anchor or were a news anchor, that was something that I found really interesting. What's kind of the story behind that if you want to go over into that field?
Yeah, sure. It more so came from my just, um, urge to be creative, my tendency to do that, to whether it, and I feel like news was a really good outlet for me. I don't go into news having any malintentions, and I think that's what most news reporters do.
Hmm.
I mean, whenever I go into news, I always think about, how can I make this more interesting to the viewer? Whenever it comes to, the touchy subjects, obviously I want to be just get the information across and more so focus on the correctness of the information um, as the priority. But it's sort of just the reason I got into that was purely just as another outlet for doing what I enjoy with technology to create, whether it be guitars with singing and and everything, but or using cameras. Like I do photography as well. I'm currently working with real estate agents, not currently under any contracts though, but
Hmm.
where I do like these listings and I help do voiceovers and displays of this of the homes that these agents are trying to sell in the area. And
Okay.
so it's just wherever I can get that out.
Hmm.
I feel like that is very fulfilling for me as a person and as a creator to find whatever I can do and whatever I'm good at and can do to continue doing it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, as someone who has always kind of thought of himself as a someone who likes to create things, I love to see how different people um kind of see their life as kind of their own work of art. And I find that really interesting, like the different avenues that you've taken. I mean, because like that's the I've never heard I've actually never even heard of that as being like a potential career field or like a potential side hustle kind of field of working with real estate agents to do that kind of listing. Um, how did you find like the specific fields that you're in? Did they just kind of fall in naturally with your interest of wanting to create, or were they things that you had a little bit of interest in and were led towards?
Kind of a mixture of both. That's a good question. I'd say it's more about, just, well, I know I'm good at this, I know I'm good at that, so I'm going to capitalize it. Because, if you have talent and you don't use it, then what's the point of even having that talent? It feels almost like a sin to not, use that when you have it. But also not even that. It's because I do enjoy it and I get a lot of appreciation for it, and I also feel like in ways I would like to help people doing something that I love. I mean, it can't get much better than that. But it's kind of from that. You're on the right track.
Yeah. Um, and so I think something that I saw a video that on your what news agency did you work for?
I was a reporter and then I anchored um, there for a bit. Would have liked some things to go differently, and so I controlled what I could and
Okay.
moved on, as well. And I feel like it sort of had, just given the specific circumstances there, I didn't want to continue jeopardizing my mental health to be there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I eventually decided to part ways just because of specific circumstances and people. But I wish them the best, and I still really enjoy news, and I'm
Hmm.
looking to get back into that here, real soon, is
Yeah.
my hope.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that is an interesting industry because like I mean I'm in news in a way, in more of the print side of things, and
yeah,
it's one of those things where it is interesting because I think a lot of, at least in my own feeling, I think when our kind of generation comes in to these pre-established mediums, we really want to um, I don't think revolutionize is the right word because I don't think that that's kind of the desire of most people, but I feel like we want to see that what we're doing has an impact on people, and it's like then you fall into these uh,
yeah,
like pre-established ways that things have been done, and then you notice that maybe it's not doing the kind of thing that you wanted it to do, or it's not
yeah,
helping people in the kind of way. I don't know if that's how you feel about it. That's kind of something that I've noticed in my own feeling, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I get that, and hey, preferably positive. Every time people see me doing like a really sad story, it's like, look, it's my job. That's a part of the job. You do stuff that's a part of your job that you don't like. And I'm gonna prefer to do the happier stories, the more, the stories that make a more positive impact. But, it would be nice to have some understanding, I guess, from some people that,
Mhm.
if I'm doing a story that's sad, you know, deep down in my heart, I wouldn't have chosen to do that story. Um, I wouldn't have chosen to do that story just on my own. I'm doing that because number one, it's relevant to the community. It's something big that happened, and I'm also being told to do it, and I have to do my job.
Yeah.
But just know that I don't know. I don't want to be cold and say like it's nothing personal, but it really isn't. Like I am I want to separate myself because and let people know that I don't want to hurt anybody
Hmm.
doing what I do for a living. And I'm sorry if that ever has. And
Yeah.
but regardless, I mean, and I think that's also another thing that comes to news is that, you got to focus on the positive that happens in the news because you are exposed to a lot of stuff that is sad, but also some stuff that is so sad that you have to even censor it from being on air or on the web stories. Yeah, I'm going on a tangent. But yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the, I think, things about that, just the whole side of the way that our society works, where it's like because everyone is kind of separated in a way, we have to have this one, like some form of interconnectedness of like knowing what's going on. And it's like, some people do have to be their role has to be the one to share those things. And it's really hard to be that person because it's like, at what, like you said, it is just your job. Like it's what you're being told to do. And you can't just come to a
Yeah.
job day after day and be like, I don't really want to do the thing that you guys are telling me to do. But people
Yeah,
don't,
like I can't
and
just say no to that. Yeah,
yeah, and
exactly.
people don't seem to understand that on the outside, which is something really weird to me because it's like, I mean, I feel like everybody in some way or another has had to do something at a job, even if it's just something like that maybe isn't as glamorous as they would have liked to have done it, that is
Yeah.
something that someone told them to do and they had to do it anyways. And
Yeah, it's definitely a rock and a hard place, especially for, journalists who are like seeing somebody who's in pain and it's like, I still have to do this. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, that's what needs to be done. It's not like we're enjoying that. I want to make that perfectly clear. But
Hmm.
like, whenever somebody is sad, like you got to be an insane person to do that. And I don't think I'm insane. But yeah, I mean, sheesh, it's up for you to judge, I guess. But
Yeah.
like I can only say so much. But like yeah, that's kind of where I am with news. I'm hoping to get back in there. I look forward to it. And ultimately, I think, in terms of a job overall, I would like to move more towards singing and,
Hmm.
performing and actually making stuff that people can hang on to and relate to, etc. I think that would be more of my dream job than even news. But don't get me wrong, I sincerely and wholeheartedly do enjoy working in news and learning more about the world, especially as someone who's more neurodivergent. So it's been fun. There was this one thing I was gonna mention. Whenever I didn't think I would be recognized by a lot of people whenever I was in TV
Hmm.
news, and then it was a lot of the older people because that's who watches a lot of TV. That's what they're used to and what they're comfortable using as their medium for their source of news.
Hmm.
And so it's funny. That was sort of interesting to me. It's just like, oh, hey, are you Brock? And I'm like, no, I look like him, but we don't even look that much alike. Like, there's this reporter I worked with. His name was Brock, and people would be like, eh. And well, they would say like, "Oh, you're Brock." I'm like, "I'm the other guy." And then, oh, Stoker. Yeah, because Brock was really good. Yeah, shout out to him. He was one of the good reporters, I believe. He was
Yeah.
he locked in, so to speak. If we're talking in terms of Gen Z dialect. Sorry to all
Um,
the millennials, Gen X, and boomers that are listening to this. Yeah,
um, that actually did remind me of the train of thought that I completely lost.
yeah,
Where I was getting at was as you kind of like are at this point that seems very like transitory, like you're ready to move into something else, and you
yeah.
kind of in one hand want to stay in the same kind of field but in a different way. Do you think that you're gonna like with news, do you think that you'll fall into something kind of like with televised news, or do you think you are more interested in maybe some other way of expressing that side of yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm talking with a few people now, and honestly, I'm going back into news number one because it is a stable source of income that I can rely on and that I can also share my services and, and end up entering into a contract that will be mutually beneficial and just get things done.
Hmm.
So it's more so, I I don't know, I don't want to say surviving, but because that makes it sound like I have a problem with news, and I really don't. Not necessarily. It's just certain people who are there, obviously can make it easier or harder, and there's only so much you can control. But um, yeah, I would prefer to, someday, hopefully, sooner rather than later, move into, the more music industry. But, you know, yeah, I'm sure you might have heard some stories about how hard it is for people to get into that kind of stuff and actually have a reliable source of income. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Like I don't hate news, so I'm fine with it. So I'm gonna continue in that, and then if something really does pick up for me with music, then I'll go that route. And not to mention, I am writing a few songs right now, a few more originals. I have played them at um, the gigs that I've been doing. I don't remember if I played it at the one that you were at, but I'm not going to release the name of it yet, even though I know what the name is going to be. But
Hmm.
regardless, I'm super excited to. I feel like these are some of my better works. I do already have a work out on all the major platforms. It's called Find You.
Okay.
That's the song. It's called Find You. And it's like with the album cover. You might be able to, if you're visual, you can see it. It's like an album cover with a blue night sky and clouds, and then there's a really bright moon
Okay.
by the clouds. I just thought it was a cool picture. I needed something to just publish the song because I just wanted to get it published, and I figured, you know, it comes from. I guess I wrote that song out of a sense of hope,
Hmm.
and just wanting to really talk in just really to voice my hope that I would find somebody, and hey, now I know who that is. I'm not going to bring her too much into this, but regardless, it was really cool to see how that song aged, because I think I published it 2 to 3 years ago now. But and now I'm looking to publish like this other song, and I don't publish songs as frequently as say John Mayer himself or Dua Lipa or Ed Sheeran or any of these other artists that are slightly more well known or modern to the current climate of music. But and that's also because I'm doing so many things at the same time.
Yeah.
But I I will say it would be nice to get into that more. I think the reason I don't do that, I think that's what I was getting to, is the reason that I don't publish as frequently as them is because I'm super highly critical of myself along with
Mm.
having all these other things that I just want to do. And it's
Yeah.
almost like you get, like gridlocked, except it's in your brain.
Hmm.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
no,
an analogy for it. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. I have writing is my main kind of avenue of creative outlet, and that's exactly like what stopped me from really getting a lot of work that I would love to get out there. And it's because like it'll be in the idea stage for months, and then it'll go on to
Uh-huh.
the paper stage for months, and then like the drafting, and then it's just like by the end of it, I just can't I can't bear to like give it to somebody else.
Right.
Because I'm either not happy with where it's at because it's not where I think it should be at,
Yeah.
or it's like I've just been with it so long that it's not quite as like pertinent in my
Yeah.
life anymore.
And you've just in it. Yeah, I don't know if you can relate to this. I'm only saying this because I feel like I wonder if you can relate to this. Is it's so it's I'm kind of saying it out of like almost as a question to you.
Hmm.
But have you ever written something and it's just like, what have I done? I have done all of this for nothing. It does not come together at all. I need to destroy
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My form of destroying is like deep archiving, so like it'll just go in a drawer somewhere because I don't think I could ever actually like get rid of something if
Same.
I've put that much work into it. But no, I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean, where it's like this is usually with me, it's like the initial idea, like the initial spark of something is so like so powerful in my brain that like I think my form of self-criticism is like if you can't recreate that original spark onto something that other people can see, then you can't release it. And I think that's been
Yeah.
something over the past like year to year and a half that I've really been trying to work on, because I acknowledge that that's like, in a way, it's a healthy part of a creative person, because like it's like a forest. Like forests need to have forest fires at some point
Exactly.
so that they can regrow. But on the other hand, you can't just burn down the whole forest or else it won't regrow. And so I've been trying to
Yeah.
break out of that.
I mean, most forest fires are caused by people, but
That is
yeah, no,
true.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Yeah. I, where was I going? Yes. Yeah. Well, this might as well just be called the ADHD podcast because we keep forgetting.
Yeah, I usually don't cut out silence, but I think for both of our sakes, I'll probably cut out some of our thinking moments, just
Yeah,
because
that'd
neither
probably
of
be
us
good.
can. Yeah.
That'd probably be good. Oh, goodness. Yeah, I guess something also that people who look me up heavily or something might be able to eventually learn about me is I used to, um, there was this time in high school whenever I sort of was breaking out of my shell, and I was, it was around the time that I wrote Find You. You know what? I actually wrote that in my sophomore year of high school. I think my late sophomore year, going into
Hmm.
junior year, and then of course the junior year was a whole different, like it was a crazy year, um, and then my senior year is kind of when I sort of came out of my shell more so, and then um, I was in the junior Air Force ROTC in high school,
Hmm.
and this is related to singing, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So I was talking to my drill sergeant, and he's done a lot to help me get to where I'm about to tell you what happened. I give him a lot of credit for this, but we were going to this trip, this ROTC trip to Los Angeles as a trip. They do it every year to a location. I believe it's once to Hawaii and then once to elsewhere. It's in Ligonier Valley. I believe I already said that, but whatever. And then, excuse me. And then after, we were going to LA. We originally wanted to go on a TV show that's very well known, and if I told it to you, you would know about it right away. But we ended up getting denied for that, so we ended up going to color guard a spring training Dodgers baseball game,
Hmm.
and I, out of the blue, for some reason, I was, starting to, come out of my shell, feel a bit more confident about myself, starting to make these big moves. And then I asked him, is anybody singing the national anthem for this? And he says, I don't know. I'm like, are you sure you can do it? Because that's a lot of people in that stadium. And I'm just like, why not? I'm making progress now, and I might as well shoot my shot. And he says, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you at a completely random time to sing, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and you got to do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And so it was the next day that he told me in front of class that he wanted me to sing in front of them. So I did, and it turned out pretty well, actually. And so then they reached out to the organizers for the Los Angeles Dodgers. We spoke with them, tried to, well, over emails, I suppose. I don't know the details because he was in charge of the communications.
Hmm.
And so um, I'm really stretching this out, aren't I?
No, it's great. I'm
Yeah,
following it.
and then oh, what was it? The And so we were talking with them, and they said, "Okay, send us a video audition of you singing the national anthem." And so I did that. I recorded a video of myself singing in uniform and everything, and then we sent it to them, the file and all. And then they said, "Okay, you did fine. We'll take you for the spring game." And oh, that was a new feeling. It was really cool because I knew the magnitude of what I was doing. Number one, it was going to, there were going to be a lot of people. So at first, yeah, I was like, wow, this feels a little scary. But then for some reason, as the more the time went on, because I was already making these big moves, I think that was perfect timing for me to be able to do that. So March rolls around. That's when the trip was, March of 2019. I believe it was March 26, 2019 that I sang there in Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium to open up for their baseball game. We color guarded. There's a whole video. There's like copies of the video on YouTube that you can see, and it exists there. But yeah, and it was where am I going with this? So we get there. I go we go into the stadium after our wonderful trip. It was a fun trip there. We did a lot of stuff, helped a lot of people actually, especially helped a handful of homeless people as well that were there, because being homeless, if anywhere in LA, it seems to be a lot harder.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, in Cali, the price of living there is insane. But
Hmm.
so we did all that, and then I come to Dodger Stadium. We had an all women's color guard. It was all, well, some of them might have been girls because they were 17, but regardless, it was an all girls color guard, and there was me singing there. I had just turned 18, and back in January, and it begins. They get us ready. The guy, the guy who I'm with, he was like really kind. I forget his name, but you can see him in some of the videos on YouTube trying to help me get together. And so we do a practice run through it while people are still coming into the stadium, and I'm singing and it's good. And so that went fine. And by this point, I was like completely numb to the situation. I wasn't nervous, but I I couldn't tell what feeling I was feeling. But
Hmm.
it wasn't one of like nervousness. It was more of just like, wow, this is awesome. And so I get yeah. So it becomes time whenever the game starts and you hear like the big announcements come over the speaker and they're like introducing certain things about the stadium and blah blah blah. And they say, and then I see an American flag come on the big two screens. They have two big screens, and I'm just like, okay, it's time. And so then our color guard is ready. So the four girls, they go out onto the field, they present their arms, and then the people who are there's a guy with a camera right in front of me, and then there's another manager right beside the guy with the camera, and she points to me when to go after the announcements are. And it's really cool because I have like what professional people in the media industry would know as an IFB. It's an earpiece that you can use to
Hmm.
basically listen to programming. And they gave me that so I wouldn't get tripped up, because whenever I sing, it's like at least a second delay to 2 seconds of delay between the audio of me singing and it going onto the big speakers. So
Hmm.
they knew that would probably mess me up. So they gave me that earpiece and I could hear the programming in my ear. It was really cool. And so then the color guard goes out into the middle of the field. They present the arms, and then they introduce my name. I'm just sitting there smiling, like, wow, okay, cool. And then the lady points at me to go, and then I just start. And so I'm singing, like, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? And on gleaming, for some reason, my throat got all scratchy, and I just went, gleaming, and then I resumed. It was the craziest thing, and then I just kept on going, whose broad stripes, and I continued in the, I believe it was the key of G, and and it was so funny. And then eventually it got even way better towards the end, and I started doing like vibrato and stuff at the end, and I wasn't
Hmm.
going overboard like some people do, and just sort of brave, and just finishing it off like that. And then I've never experienced this before, and I think it's really cool if you ever get to experience it in your life. But the roar of a crowd in a stadium like that you're in the center of feels pretty surreal.
Yeah,
It's a little different than just being in the audience. It's
yeah,
kind of like white noise, but like hyped up white noise. I don't know how to describe it better than that, but it was really cool. And hey, bringing honor to the country and all, it was it ended up turning out really well. And so that
yeah.
was done. And I tried going back to, and I tried saying, or I talked to my drill sergeant, who was like, I cannot believe you did that. Like, I am happy you're happy, because if you weren't, I'd be scared. Like, what have I gotten you into? I'm going to look like I mean, that's probably what he was saying. He didn't say all of that, what he was thinking. But regardless, it turned out really well.
Yeah. No, that's
And
great. I
and
mean, that's
he
a
yeah. And he
yeah.
was sorry. He was saluting. He has to salute whenever I'm singing the pledge or
Okay,
singing
yeah.
the national anthem. And then whenever I said gleaming, he just went "Ugh," like he kind of said he got nervous, but then he was like, and then I continued on. He's like, breathe a sigh of relief. So
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. You can see it. It's on YouTube. You'll be able to find it easily if you dare to spell my crazy name. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll have to look
Anyway,
that up. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that sounds crazy. That's I mean, like that definitely after you've done that, there's nothing I feel like would probably scare you from there. But
Yeah, it definitely was a confidence builder. Figured I'd share that.
yeah, no, that's super cool. And I mean, I think that would be great for people to hear because I mean, like some of those experiences you only get to have once in a lifetime. And I mean, you really nailed that. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I'd love to have you on again. And if we ever get to actually meet in person, which we were going to do for this episode, but schedules kind of
Yeah.
took us apart. I'd love to have you on again because this was awesome. And that's a really great story. Like I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.